There are now thousands of people online confidently claiming that Acts of Parliament aren't actually law. And the frightening part is that they genuinely believe it. They'll say things like, an act isn't law until I consent, or statutes only apply if you agree to them, or common law overrides Acts of Parliament. Honestly, I think social media might have broken some people's brains. Now, before anybody starts typing angry comments, and you're more than welcome to do so, I don't mind. But this video isn't about whether you like certain laws, it's about whether Acts of Parliament are legally binding law in the United Kingdom. And the answer to that question is extremely simple. And I won't keep you waiting until the end of the video to tell you. The answer is yes, they are. Now, I think part of the confusion comes from the fact that many people hear legal phrases online without ever properly understanding what they mean. So they repeat things that sound intelligent without actually checking whether any of it is true. In the United Kingdom, Parliament is sovereign. That means Parliament has the authority to create, amend, and repeal law through legislation. And when Parliament passes legislation and it receives royal assent, it becomes law. That law is called an Act of Parliament. So, for example, the Road Traffic Act, the Theft Act, the Communications Act, the Human Rights Act, these are all Acts of Parliament and they are all law. They're not suggestions, they're not optional guidelines, not something that only applies if you personally consent to it. I think we're straying into sovereign citizen territory a wee bit here, and I might do an entire video on the whole sovereign citizen movement if you're interested. If you are, let me know in the comments and I'll create a video on that. But back to this video. Online, you're often going to see people confidently saying things like, statutes aren't law, or I don't consent to this act. Sovereign citizens say that all the time. Or even, only common law matters. But the problem with this is that none of this actually changes the legal reality. And one of the strangest things about this entire argument is how confidently it's often delivered. You'll see people online speaking with absolute certainty about constitutional law despite having absolutely no legal training whatsoever. And look, I don't have any legal training whatsoever either. And many of you might think I'm an idiot, but I can research fairly well. I can understand things fairly well. And in the end, I'm just giving you my opinion, okay? But I believe that people are allowed to question authority. That's healthy. That's normal. But there's a huge difference between questioning the law and inventing your own version of reality. And interestingly, when you actually ask the people that are making these claims to provide any legal authority for what they're saying, the conversation often becomes very vague very quickly. You'll hear things like, do your own research, or it's all hidden in maritime law, or the courts know the truth, or the classic, you need to understand the legalese, and don't stand under. Right, I need to keep away from the sovereign citizen arguments in this video, but I think I will make one on sovereign citizens. But anyway, getting back again, at that point in your argument or your discussion with someone who just is spouting out these crazy phrases, you're no longer discussing law, you're discussing internet mythology. I think part of the problem is that legal terminology sounds mysterious to people. Words like statute and legislation, common law, jurisdiction, consent, constitutional authority, they all sound incredibly dramatic. But sounding dramatic and being legally meaningful are not the same thing. Because imagine trying that logic in court, and some people do. Yes, Your Honour, I appreciate Parliament passed this law, but I personally disagree with it. What do you think the judge is going to say? That's not how legal systems function. And this isn't just happening in the UK. Versions of these theories exist everywhere in the world. In America, you often see the sovereign citizens argument. If you watch YouTube, you can see them on YouTube. In the UK, it's not so much sovereign citizen, it's more freeman on the land style arguments. And although the wording changes slightly, the core idea is usually the same. And that's that the law doesn't apply to me unless I agree to it or unless I consent to it. I don't wish to contract with you. Unfortunately, courts have consistently rejected these arguments for years. And honestly, I think many people fall into this stuff because they want it to be true. The idea that taxes don't apply, regulations don't apply, licensing doesn't apply, laws only work if you consent. It sounds emotionally appealing. But emotionally appealing and legally correct are two very different things. And honestly, I think social media algorithms make this problem worse. Because once somebody watches one video or one live stream or one conspiracy clip, the algorithm immediately thinks they like watching this kind of stuff and it feeds them even more of the same. So instead of hearing balanced information that you'll get from me, they end up trapped inside an echo chamber where incorrect ideas are endlessly reinforced. And to be fair, some of this content can sound convincing at first, especially if somebody speaks confidently about it, uses complicated terminology, quotes partial sections of legislation, or presents themselves as some kind of legal expert. I am not that. But confidence is not evidence, and sounding authoritative does not automatically make somebody correct. Right, to be clear, people absolutely have the right to criticise laws, campaign against laws, challenge laws politically, argue that laws are unjust. I've argued many a time that many laws are unjust. I've won some, I've lost more than I've won though. And that's completely normal in a democracy. But claiming that acts of parliament somehow aren't law is simply incorrect. Perhaps the simplest way to look at all of this is if acts of parliament supposedly aren't law, then what exactly do people think British courts are enforcing every single day? Because courts across the United Kingdom sentence people, fine people, prosecute people, disqualify drivers and prison offenders under acts of parliament constantly, every day. And they've been doing this for generations. I think one of the problems with modern social media is that repetition starts replacing evidence. You've seen it before. You've seen it across the water. If enough people repeat something confidently, others begin assuming that it must be true, even when it collapses under the most basic scrutiny. So while people absolutely have the right to criticise laws or campaign politically to change them, pretending those laws somehow don't legally exist is a completely different thing altogether. So the next time somebody online yells at you, "Acts of Parliament aren't law," ask yourself a simple question. why does every court in Britain treat them as law every single day?